What's going on, everyone? We are back for episode 49 of the Sports On broadcast. I have Alex Whitney joining me today. I am Tyler Edgerton. Alex, how's it going, buddy?
It's going well. How's it going with you, Ty?
It's going great. We got a good one on top for the people. Let's start out with the big blockbuster trade happening in the NBA. That would be one Kyrie Irving forcing his way out of Cleveland and headed to the Boston Celtics in exchange for Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, Andre Zizic, and the 2018 Nets pick. What do you make of it?
Yeah, it kind of took me by surprise last night when I saw it going around the rounds on Twitter. To me, I think the Celtics, got the better end of the trade just because they got the best player in the trade. I know that first round pick is a lot, but other than that, it's pretty much to me, it's past this year. It's like Kyrie and a first or a Kyrie for a first because who knows if Isaiah is going to resign and is Cleveland going to give him a max deal? And who knows what Zizic is? And Jay Crowder is a solid piece, but he's nothing really flashy. So they have to hope that they get a top 3 pick in next year's draft, and that the Nets pick turns out to be something good.
Yeah, I think the pick that they got in this deal from the Nets or from Boston from the Nets is really going to work in their favor. And this move to me just tells me that Cleveland is preparing for a future without LeBron James. They wanted that pick so they could pick up another person early in the draft, most likely, because the Nets are not very good. And this helps potentially with the way that the contracts are expiring for one Isaiah Thomas and LeBron James. He might be moving out. It's a good trade for the Celtics because they have a very good starting five, one that'll push for the Eastern Conference and maybe even into the finals. Now, remember, LeBron James has been there how many years in a row? I mean, they'll still work out something in Cleveland, but as far as long term, I would say Cleveland is not sitting pretty, and Boston is, especially if Kyrie Irving resigns.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I would have felt differently if Cleveland could have got Jaylen Brown in return instead of Jay Crowder or Marcus Smart, a young up and coming guy who has potential left. Jay Crowder, Isaiah Thomas, their potential is pretty much reached. And I think if they could have, got like a Jaylen Brown in the trade, I could have looked at it a different way.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of people on Facebook and social media right now are saying that LeBron's coming to Philly. Let's not go there. Let's not go there yet. But I mean, it would be great if it happened. But like I said, as far as this trade goes for right now, it looks like the Cavaliers are looking to move on after LeBron James gets out of town. Then again, he's from Cleveland. Maybe they'll try and make a push. I have heard some rumors. I mean, there's no validity to this, but people are saying maybe he'll get traded at the deadline. I guess that depends on what kind of chemistry the team has by the deadline, but I would say for right now, LeBron would stay in Cleveland for the rest of the season and then move on.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with that. I don't think there's really any chance they're going to trade LeBron. LeBron would have to waive his no trade clause, and with LeBron, you could still make it to the finals because it's LeBron. So it's really I don't see him giving up on the Cavaliers in the middle of the season, and I don't see Cleveland even thinking about trading them halfway through the season.
Let's look at the other side because the Celtics are in the same division as the Sixers, and the reason I bring this up is now the Celtics starting five looking very good with Kyrie Irving, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Marcus Morris, and Al Horford. Isaiah Thomas was someone who needed the ball in his hands 90% of the time to score points. Kyrie Irving is not that guy. He can also pass a little better, in my opinion. He can get to the rack a little better because Isaiah Thomas is 5'8". How do you like the way that Kyrie Irving fits into the lineup?
I mean, he fits into any lineup, in my opinion. He's just that good. He could shoot from downtown. He could drive, like you said. He pretty much is, you know, a lesser Russell Westbrook in the way he plays, just because he doesn't have maybe the elite athleticism as Russell has with his
Good
leaping
point.
ability. But the way he shoots, the way he drives, I mean, he's a point guard that anybody would like and would make any team better. I've heard the idea that maybe the Celtics defense isn't going to be as good as last year with losing a guy like Jay Crowder and Avery Bradley in the offseason. But I still think they're going to be top, definitely top of the Atlantic Division. I mean, their starting five is as good as anybody's. I mean, they need if Jason Tatum can play like he did in the summer league, the sky's the limit for the Celtics this year.
Absolutely. Um, Something that's been thrown around on Sports Talk today in Philadelphia would be that would you take their lineup versus the Sixers lineup? And I think right now in the immediate future, you'll probably agree with me, you would take the Celtics. But the one weakness they have is that they don't have a big to guard other bigs, and I think that's kind of where they'll get beat up this season is down low. That's great for the Sixers because we all know Joel Embiid is there in the middle. We even have Okafor coming off the bench, Ben Simmons 6'10", Dario Saric 6'10", but the Sixers have to put it on the floor and be healthy in order to press the Celtics. I mean, they weren't a playoff team last year, but there is the future is bright as far as the down low position and how you can beat them up. I think the Celtics will also struggle with other teams that have bigs down low.
Right. It's kind of a rare thing to have big time centers like the Sixers do. Guys with that kind of height who play that kind of way.
Who can also shoot from the outside.
Exactly. I think most of the time the Celtics will be okay because they're not going to face 7'2" centers. They're going to play, NBA teams now are playing a lot of smaller lineups. And the way that their guards play, the Celtics guards will play, supposedly will outshine any kind of, center weakness they have because of how good their guard play is going to be.
Let's move into another topic, something that's really big coming up, and that would be the Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor fight. Will you be watching?
Me personally, probably not. We'll see. We'll see if I can get into somewhere that doesn't have a cover. I'm not going to be paying for it. That's my thing. Because who knows how good the fight's going to be. Mayweather can knock out McGregor in 10 seconds, or, they could be dancing around all night. In my opinion, I think it's going to be, I don't know how good of a fight it's really going to be. But that's just me. How about you? You going to watch
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm going to Miller's Ale House, and hopefully it's free. I don't think they'll charge for that. But
Yeah.
I personally, I'm not a big MMA type person, or even boxing. I don't really follow it. I feel like that's kind of old school sports. So for me personally, I'm only watching because it's a big fight, the biggest fight of the year in a couple years, to be honest. As far as the fight actually goes, I'm not going to comment too much because, like I just said, I'm not an expert. But the one thing that really stands out to me is McGregor is used to fighting 10 minutes at most, and Mayweather is used to fighting 35 minutes on average. So if McGregor is going to knock him out, it's got to be quick. If McGregor is going to knock out Mayweather quick, it's got to be quick. And if Mayweather goes against McGregor, he can just wear him down. So I'm looking forward to watching the fight. I'm definitely not paying for it, though, because I'm not a big boxing fan.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I don't know how McGregor's going to fare. You're correct in saying if he has a chance, he has to be quick. And not many people are quicker than Floyd Mayweather when it comes to boxing. I mean, McGregor can't kick him. It's not his game. So it's an interesting matchup, and I'm curious. I'm definitely curious. I just don't know if I'm going to be, watching it intently at the time. I'll see the highlights.
Yeah, really. On ESPN the next day.
Right.
Mike brings up on Facebook, though, if you really do want to see it, you can go to Parks because it's free. Go to the casino, gamble a little bit, place your bet, see someone get knocked out.
I mean, the fight may be free, but they're going to be wanting you to pay some money at the slots. I don't know. What's the difference?
I hear you. All right, quickly moving along, we are going to go into some Phillies real quick, just because I haven't had a chance to talk to you about this. Now, we all know they're the worst team in baseball, and I feel like I bring that up every week. But there are some things that are really important to the team, not even for next year. I'm not even for the rest of this year, but next year and the following years after that. So the first one would be that Vince Velasquez is headed to the 60-day DL, ending his season with only 72 innings pitched. My question to you is it time for the Phillies to exclude him in their future plans?
It's kind of, I don't know if that's a quick trigger. I mean, I know he's had 2 years in a row where he couldn't make it through the season. But the thing is now he has no trade value because he can't stay healthy. So he has to stay in their future plans because where else is he going to go? Whether that's in the starting rotation or in the bullpen is to be determined. But people say that he could be a good bullpen piece. But overall, I mean, he's got great stuff. He just has to stay healthy. And this year, he's got a really flat fastball, which is really his downfall. He tries to go, his every at bat he pitches is like 5 or 6 pitches. So he really needs to maybe instead of going for a strikeout every time, maybe go more to contact. And I feel like he had 1 or 2 starts this year where he pitched to contact and he fared better. So I guess we'll see what happens. I like him as a guy. I think he brings fire to the mound. He pitches with great passion, which I enjoy to watch. He's fun to watch. It's just, it's not fun when he's giving up home runs every other at bat.
Yeah, I like how you ended that, and that's what kills me inside about Vinny Velasquez. Like, he's got a ton of potential, but can't stay on the field, and those kind of guys just drive me crazy. A lot of people say that he should go to the bullpen because he looks to strike out people. That would help in the 8th or 9th inning, especially on this Phillies team. But I am kind of surprised. I put out a poll on Twitter, and it's 57 to 43% that they should hold on to him. So 43%, almost half of the votes that we have so far, says that he's always hurt and they don't think that they should include him into future plans. As far as the other prospects that have really come up this season, we have Williams and Hoskins, who look really good, and to me, they look MLB ready. But Jorge Alfaro has also helped a lot, kind of spelling Cameron Rupp as Andrew Knapp went on the DL. Just a quick update on their stats. You look at Nick Williams, he's hitting .283 with 7 home runs and 26 RBIs. Hoskins, after kind of a bad start going 0 for 10 in his first 3 games, he's really turned it around. He's up to .244, but he has 6 home runs in the first 12 games, something Philly has never done.
Yeah, it's Hoskins is. I'm really excited about Hoskins. I'm a little bit worried about Nick Williams and his strikeout rate, but if you look at Nick Williams' stats, one thing he did not do in the minor leagues is walk, and something that he has done an okay job at doing with the Phillies is actually drawing bases on balls, which I'm shocked at. I just figured, facing major league pitching, he would strike out even more. But he's made more contact than I imagined or than I expected, and I like him a lot. I think he plays a solid defense. He hasn't stolen, I don't think, any bases, which is also a surprise to me. But he's got, solid potential. I don't think he's going to be an all-star, but I think he could be a solid major leaguer. With Hoskins, his approach to at the plate is beyond his years. I mean, he looks to draw walks. He's got a great eye. He makes a lot of, for a guy who hits home runs, that's like his calling. I mean, he makes contact on a lot of balls, and he could hit for a decent average in the pros. We just can't go through those 0-10 stretches, but yeah I don't think he's going to keep up. Obviously, he's not going to keep up the home run pace that he's at right now, but I think he could be a 30 home run guy every year. You could say the same for Tommy Joseph, but Hoskins will have a better average and a definitely better on-base percentage because of the amount of walks he draws.
Well, that's the one thing, when it comes to Hoskins, that's the one thing I do really like. You talked about his approach a lot. He'll get deep in counts before he even swings the bat, and then he'll drive a pitcher 8, 9, even 10 pitches sometimes just because he can make such great contact. He's got very good awareness. The one thing that you said, which is kind of ironic, is the 0 for 10 that he started on. You said, you can't have a lot of 0 for 10s. And the one thing I don't understand as a Phillies fan is that Tommy Joseph has had about 30 of them this season, and yet somehow he's still playing first base, where I feel like Hoskins would be most comfortable just lining up at first every night.
Yeah, well, that's definitely his natural position. The thing with Tommy Joseph is, he goes through the stretches, but he's leading the team in home runs. So it's like, what do you do? I know, right? I think
he's the classic case of Ryan Howard, swing or strike out.
Yeah, he is. Exactly.
If I see him pop up one more time, I'm gonna freak out. But that's beyond the point because the Phillies are so bad I can't even watch anymore.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to watch, and when September comes around, who knows what other prospects will be coming up. J.P. Crawford's gotten some time at third base down in the minors now, so maybe we'll see him at third. We'll see what happens. I know that they're not going to want to bench Galvis because he's played it in, I think, still every game this season.
And he's playing Gold Glove caliber too.
exactly. So, who knows? Maybe Crawford could slide in at third, and Michael Franco can, who knows,
Walk.
walk. Something he rarely does.
All right, before we get to the meat and potatoes, there is one more guy I brought up, and that would be Jorge Alfaro. I just wanted to point out he hasn't gotten as many at bats just because he is behind Cameron Rupp. I think he has something like 33 at bats, but he is hitting 333, and he had his first home run about a week ago. He's got 3 RBIs, but still, he's another guy who has a very good approach at the plate, and I think he's handling this young pitching staff pretty well behind the plate as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking forward to watching Alfaro for a long time. I mean, he got a taste of the majors at the end of last year. It didn't really go that well, but he was the main piece in the Cole Hamels trade. So ever since that, I've been looking forward to seeing what he can do. Yeah, everyone raves about his throwing arm behind the plate, and I haven't really seen that yet. But if he could just be consistent, hit 280, he'll easily supplant Cameron Rupp. I think that the Phillies should look to trade Cameron Rupp in the offseason because I think Andrew Knapp is definitely a capable backup. So maybe next year we'll have Alfaro as the number one and Knapp as the number two, and maybe Cameron Rupp's out the door.
This quickly just came to mind before we move on. Do you think Scott Kingery will also make an appearance?
This year, I don't think so. I think we have to figure out what we do with Cesar Hernandez because he is a good player. I mean,
It's the same thing with Freddie Galvis.
He's a little bit better offensively, makes more contact. Freddie Galvis will have more home runs and RBIs, but Cesar Hernandez is hitting 280 something with a 330, 340 something on base percentage. He plays solid defense. He's a major league second baseman. So whether the Phillies want to trade him or trade Galvis in the offseason or whatever, I don't think Scott Kingery is going to be up this year. And the other reason, you got to find him and Crawford. You got to find room on the 40-man roster. So who knows if we'll even see them both this year.
All right, guys, let's get to the most exciting team in Philly right now and get away from the horrible Philadelphia Phillies.
Championship.
Yeah, the Soul coming up. That's true. I'm actually really excited. I'm going to tune into that game. Unfortunately, I'll be in Florida, but I would buy tickets if I was here. Hopefully, they can repeat in Arena Bowl 30. All right, that's enough of that. Let's get to the real football team. All right, so let's just open it up with, we haven't been on the air in a week. Let's kind of open it up with what we've seen in preseason through the first 2 games. Maybe something that's disappointed you and something that's excited for you. Do you want to start offense, defense? You just want to go disappointment or excitement? Do you want to start?
Let's do disappointment, excitement.
All right. Why don't you start first?
All right, well, I'll say the obvious. I think it's the running game. It's been very disappointing. And the thing is, I don't know how it's going to get better. I know Jason Peters didn't play last week, and you could say that it's the offensive line, but at the end of the day, actually, all of it's not working. The running game has been extremely poor. I don't think Corey Clement is going to be the answer. He's just one of those guys that's playing well. I don't think he's going to be the next Brian Westbrook, but I'm hoping that this next game something turns around. I hope Blunt can get forward. I hope Donnell Pumphrey can carry for more than half a yard. It's the running game has been very worrisome to me.
Number 1 on my list right there.
Sorry.
Not a problem. Do you want me to switch it over? Why don't we start with this? So I wrote down just a couple things as I was thinking of this exercise.
Sure.
And then maybe I'll get your comments afterwards. So number 1 was the offensive line in the run game. Yeah, it's preseason, but they haven't looked good as well. And kind of something that goes with that is the fact that the Eagles, to me, are trading away depth in key areas. They just got rid of Matt Tobin to the Seattle Seahawks. They got rid of Barbary. Yeah, you want Sayamalu to step in, but that's 2 guys that have started for this team over the last 2 seasons that they've gotten rid of. And then even Jordan Matthews, we're waiting on Nelson Aguilar to step up. And yeah, he had a good showing last week, but was this team better if you had Jordan Matthews? I would say yes, but then again, you also got Ronald Darby in the back end of that trade, which would be exciting to me. But let's stick with the disappointments. So we had offensive line trading away depth at key areas. Special teams really hasn't looked that good to me. They gave up 1 punt return to Green Bay, and then they gave another probably like 40, 50 yarder to the Bills last week. And with that, sticking with special teams, I would just say that Caleb Sturgis, his inconsistency just kind of drives me nuts. I feel like every time he lines up for a kick, it's 50-50, especially if it's from 40 to 50 yards.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Caleb Sturgis has been a little. I've been worried about him as well. Um, he just needs to stay consistent, and if he's not kicking well, by the second week he's gone.
I think
So
I think they said last year too, he made 86% of his field goals, and that was a career high for him by far. So, I mean, he struggled with it in Miami, and that's the reason he was released. Cody Parkey never got healthy, and that's why Sturgis got the job, and he was pretty good for most of last year, but down the stretch, it kind of fell apart, and that's carrying over into this offseason.
yeah, I mean, a, the kicker is one of the most important players of any team. He needs to make those kicks. He needs to get those 3 points. And I'm definitely worried, and I'm hoping in this next game he goes, gets some chances. Have him kick on third down. I don't know. I just want to see Sturgis kick some field goals
Yeah.
and make them.
Or either that or they can convert and he can kick all the extra points. The
There you
last
go.
one that I had was just the lack of Torrey Smith, just because we've seen his explosive plays. And although they didn't have too many drives, the Eagles didn't try and push it downfield in the first 2 games. So maybe we'll see a little of that next week. But I want to see Torrey Smith get involved in the offense because that's going to be really big, especially opening it up underneath for Nelson Aguilar and Zach Ertz or whoever plays the slot.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen Torrey Smith at all in the field. I guess he's been irrelevant so far during the preseason games. So you're right. I hope he does get downfield more often than he has.
All right, some exciting things that I've seen out of the first 2 preseason games. The one that has really stood out would be Michael Kendricks and the fact that he's made plays in 2 consecutive games. He's diagnosed the offensive plays pretty well. He had the interception last week, and then he also took away a screen pass that they had to McCoy, I believe. And then, of course, he had the interception against the Packers. So the one thing, like I was talking about depth, if Michael Kendricks can have a 3rd game in a row that is very good and kind of just show that he belongs on this roster, I think that helps the Eagles just so much more in competing in the NFC East.
Definitely. I mean, Michael Kendricks plays a premium position on the defense. I mean, that outside linebacker position that can cover tight ends or whatever is very important on any team. Obviously we know the struggles that Michael Kendricks has had the past year or 2, but if he can get back to the way he was a few years ago, it's definitely extremely beneficial for this team.
Along the same lines, Derek Barnett with the depth of the defensive line, he's looked very good. A couple sacks, I believe he has 3. He's had rushes, he's had pressure, and he's schooling some veterans that have been playing in the preseason. Let's not, I don't think he's going to start over Vinny Curry or Chris Long. He's going to be part of a rotation, and I think that's good for Derek Barnett for the fact that you don't want these rookies to burn out by the time you get to December. You kind of want to ease them in and then have them take over as the season goes on.
I completely agree. I definitely agree with the fact that what you said about him, holding it back a little bit and then unleashing him towards the end of the season. It's just, you want to ease those young kids in, but he does look very promising, very exciting. When's the last time we've had a 1st-round pick that actually looked decent in the,
It definitely wasn't
season?
Marcus Smith, I'll tell you that.
It wasn't Marcus Smith. It wasn't Nelson Aguilar. It wasn't a lot of people. So it's good to see some, albeit preseason, obviously, but I think that he has a chance to be something decent and something that we haven't had in a 1st-round pick in a long time.
I have.
And
Go ahead.
sorry, I was just gonna say, you mentioned Vinny Curry. I still don't see him on the field. He needs to do something for me. He doesn't do it for me.
No, I hear you. I got 2 more points before we move on into some additional comments. 2 exciting things would be Ronald Darby. What a great performance in his first game as an Eagle. Albeit he was going against his old team, so I think that kind of played a factor into it. But he looks really good. You can see the speed, you can see the athleticism, and he diagnoses plays just like we were saying with Kendricks. He's diagnosed plays very well in his first performance.
Yeah, he definitely has. He needs to work on the hands, or he would have had 2 interceptions. I mean, he did so well that he forced the guy he covered to retire. So, yeah, obviously I'm kidding, but, if he could just do what he play how he looked that last game. Hopefully, we can get a decent corner back.
Yeah, and then Jalen Mills doesn't have to line up against number one. So if that works out, man, the Eagles are going to go somewhere this season. It's kind of ironic. Like everything I'm excited for is on the defensive side of the ball, and most of the worries that I had are on the offensive side of the ball. When the entire offseason has been about the offensive additions and the defense not being so good. So I tried to come up with one on offense, and that would be Corey Clement. I think this kid has a real shot to make the roster. And then the other one I have is just kind of the depth at wide receiver, or not even the depth at wide receiver, but the fight going on. Bryce Treggs had a good outing, but then he sat. Marcus Johnson was out for the first game and then had a pretty decent game. I just like the bottom of the roster competition going on at wide receiver and running back, the skill positions.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting to watch. It's exciting to see a ball thrown and a ball being caught. It's something that we haven't seen in a while. That's why Paul Turner got all. That's why Paul Turner got all the rave last year, because he caught a ball.
Yeah.
He's not that good of a receiver. So hopefully you get more skilled receivers catching balls this year. In regards to Corey Clement, he's definitely running hard, which is, reminds me a little bit of Ryan Matthews in the way that he runs very hard. But we have to remember that it's preseason. He's an undrafted free agent. He's going to run hard. So if he can continue, he does have a chance. And if Wendell Smallwood does not perform,
yep,
he definitely has a chance to supplant him on the roster.
Absolutely. Let's stick with the running backs for right now, because there's been a lot of rumors going around that LeGarrette Blount might not make the roster. And to me, it's baloney. They've asked Doug Peterson about it, and he said, nah, he's a very good runner. He's going to, contribute for the team in 2017. But I heard Jeff McClain today go on and say, it's not a guarantee. The way he's practiced, the way he's looked in the preseason has not been very good. And then I heard Albert Breer later on today also say that LeGarrette Blount doesn't show it in practice. He's not going to show it until regular season games. You're going to get the best of LeGarrette Blount when it comes down to the Eagles leading games and you need to run the clock. That's where he's at his best. So there's a lot of conflicting reports going around with Blount right now. I know a lot of people have been looking at Jeremy Hill as being expendable just because of Joe Mixon being drafted and Gio Bernard also in that situation in Cincinnati. As far as Jeremy Hill goes, he's only missed one game in 3 seasons. He's had 220 attempts almost every year. He did have a very good rookie season, but then fell off. But he does score almost 10 touchdowns every year, and he would help out of the backfield. I know they gave a lot of passes to Gio Bernard, but he can catch it. One thing LeGarrette Blount can't do. But as far as Blount goes, I feel like there already is someone on the roster in Darren Sproles. And Pumphrey, if you mix him in, he hasn't had that very good of a preseason. But we all know Sproles can catch the ball. Blount can do it, but hasn't. But Blount gives you that change up of speed where he can pound the hole, but also make someone miss with his speed. So what do you think?
Right,
do you think Blount will stay on the roster, or do you think the Eagles will look elsewhere before they get to the 53?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be looking elsewhere. I think LeGarrette Blount is going to stay on the roster. The way he ran last year, 18 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards, he's not going anywhere. Not now. If he doesn't perform in the first few weeks, who knows? I don't see them looking at Jeremy Hill. And the main reason I don't see them cutting him is because, one, I still don't see I still don't see a Jeremy Hill trade going to happen no matter what. And if you cut Blount, who are you going to start? Corey Clement or whatever? You can't start, or Wendell Smallwood. They're not going to be starting running backs this year, at least. So I don't see him going anywhere. My problem is I think they're using him wrong. I mean, he's a downhill runner. I don't know why we,
stretch it out to the outside.
Yeah. Doug Peterson loves his outside sweeps that don't do anything. So,
and that's my biggest fear. I feel like that Doug Peterson is going to use him just like Chip did DeMarco Murray. Just put it in between the tackles and let him run over somebody. You even saw it on the screenplay in Game 2 where he got into open field and he just kept rumbling down the field. But if you stretch him out, all right, he'll beat someone to the outside, but they all know it's coming. So therefore, there's no hole for him to cut upfield.
Yeah, that's the thing. LeGarrette Blount isn't really going to beat you on the outside because he doesn't have that speed, that breakaway speed. So you have to run him between the tackles where he's strong and can get a head start and pound into guys. There's a reason why he had 18 touchdowns. It's not because he's beating guys on the outside. It's because he's pounding through the middle on the goal line. So um, Doug Peterson better find out a way to use him because we haven't had a coach that could use a running back in a lot of years now, and it's very frustrating to watch.
15 out of his 18 touchdowns last season with New England came within the red zone. Let's get to some predictions, and not ours, but Adam Schefter on the radio today predicted the Eagles to win the NFC East. We don't need to throw out an official prediction yet, but do you like the Eagles' chances more so now than about 3 weeks ago?
I do, and it's because, honestly, it's because of how the defense has looked in preseason. They've been very stout. They've shut down everybody. They have a very strong, a lot of depth in that front four. So, and that's where it all starts. The safeties play well. The fact that we got Darby and Jalen Mills can fill in for now, I guess. I don't think he's a starter down the road. He doesn't get any interceptions. He still has no interceptions. I've never seen him pick the ball off. So
just finger wagging.
Yeah, exactly. I just think the way our defense has looked, I think championships are won by the defense. So with the way they've looked, the way they can get to the quarterback, the way I love that play last week when McLeod came on the late blitz and tipped the ball, and was that Kendrick's interception? Mm-hmm. Somebody intercepted it.
Yep.
So, it's Jim Schwartz throwing in some blitzes. It's going to be fun to watch the defense. I'm just a little worried about the offense, especially the running game and the offensive line. So, but I do think they have a chance. There's always a chance.
Championships are won by defense, but we're not calling them a championship defense. Don't get it twisted.
Right.
All right, so I'm going to agree with you, but for different reasons. The Giants right now, they have all the pressure on the world just because it seems like everyone thinks they're going to win the division. And talk about a running game, it's non-existent for the Giants. They have Odell go down. He might not start the season with that ankle injury. Their defense looks good, but their offense can't get a drive going, and that was the story last season. They ranked 23rd in offense, and so far through 15 drives for the first team offense, they've only scored 6 field goals. I mean, they can't punch it in, and they can't even get down the field. So that's what's going on with the Giants for right now, and that leads me to believe if you can at least hold their receivers in check, I think the Eagles would have a chance to match them on offense. And then as far as the Cowboys go, they've got convicts everywhere. Elliott going out for 6 games. I mean, that's going to be tough for them.
Guard out there.
Well, it's not even. How do I put that? Like, I think the Dallas offense is going to be okay with Darren McFadden or Alfred Morris for the first 6 games. If the suspension holds up for 6 games, it's the defense that I'm really worried about. Now, Rod Marinelli, the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys, is very good at what he does, and he gets everyone to buy in. But the reason I say that the Eagles have a fighting chance in this division is because the Giants offense is struggling, and the Cowboys defense is just way too young for me. They're starting a lot of people that are way too young. I think they're going to fold and succumb to pressure in the first 6 games where the offense can't carry them.
And I think one thing that never worries me about either team is that their home stadiums are not definite losses for opposing teams.
Yeah.
We've won plenty of times at the new Meadowlands, and we've won plenty of times at the new Dallas Stadium. So that's why I think there's always a chance, is because I'm not afraid to go, I'm not afraid to have the Eagles go there. I'm not automatically thinking they're going to lose. So that's why I think there'll always be a chance, no matter what their team is like. But yeah, you're right. I think the Cowboys defense is still hit or miss. I mean, Sean Lee, he stayed healthy last year, but who knows if he will this year. So that's like the face of their defense. I can't even name a lot of guys on their defense, to be honest.
And as far as the Redskins go, I personally am going to give them a fighting chance because they've beaten the Eagles 5 times in a row. But the way I look at it, they have a lot of chemistry that they need to put together. They're still searching for a running back. Now, a lot of these problems the Eagles have too, and maybe it's just that you're optimistic about the Eagles and pessimistic because it's the Redskins. but I feel like they have a lot to come together. And on top of that, they've Kirk Cousins, who they won't even sign as a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, the whole Kirk Cousins thing doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. I mean, he's done very well there, obviously, for a few years now, and the fact that they're not committing to him long term is weird to me, very weird. I think the Redskins will have a very good chance of going 8-8, and that's a great season for them. I do worry about their running back a little bit. I mean, they drafted Samaje Perine. They have Rob Kelly, but who knows? I don't
Jordan
know why,
Reed's
but
got to stay healthy.
that's a huge thing. He did not stay healthy last year, and that really hurt him. But it's weird because the Redskins are always that team that seems to flake out more than anybody. They always seem like they have a chance, but then then you laugh about them later. So who knows?
All right, so let's wrap up this NFC East talk and let's move into what's happening tomorrow. We're less than 23 hours or 24 hours away from the Eagles playing their very important preseason game 3 against the Dolphins. The Dolphins have come in early this week. They got a couple joint practices together. But let's look at what we're looking forward to in preseason game 3. I'll let you start.
Positively or negatively, or just in general?
I actually broke it down by defense and offense. So if you want to go that way, we can start like that.
Sure. Well, I guess I'll start off offensively. I'm looking to see Carson Wentz make better. I mean, he's made solid decisions, but I want him to make, every decision right tomorrow. He's not going to, but some of his decision making is still a little bit behind. So I want to see him not stare at receivers when he's rolling out of the pocket. I don't want to see him thrown across his body. So there still are things that I'm looking at in Carson Wentz, more so than even the running game, that I need to see more from him. And I'm also still worried about Nick Foles. He hasn't played yet. He's in and out of practice. So I felt very confident with Nick Foles as a backup, but if he's going to be hurt, then I'm not confident with Matt McGloin as our backup. So that's another thing I'm looking at.
No, I tend to agree. What I have written down for offense would be that they need to convert on third down. And we talked about this a lot with the running game. That'll definitely help. But converting on third down is huge, especially against defenses that you're going to have to go against this season. You got Oakland, Denver, Carolina. I know they need to bounce back, but the Eagles are going to have to convert. And to your point about Carson Wentz, I just think that he needs to not look at Alshon Jeffrey too much. I know Joe, who usually hosts the show with me, he kind of echoed that sentiment too. We're kind of worried that Carson Wentz, because he has this new shiny toy, and even for Doug Peterson, they're both going to look towards Alshon Jeffrey to kind of be the savior for the wide receivers because of how awful they were last season. And we just hope that he spreads the ball around. So that's one thing I do want to see, and that was kind of my point in getting Torrey Smith involved. I also have that does Aguilar show consistency? And on top of that, I really need to see Wendell Smallwood, Bryce Treggs, and Nick Foles even get some snaps in preseason game 3 just to get a couple licks on them and, just get some experience. If we have to go in and Nick Foles is injured and Matt McGloin is the backup for the first 2 weeks, it could get pretty ugly.
Yeah, it could definitely get very ugly. I thought I saw something that said Nick Foles is not going to play tomorrow. So I'm assuming that he's not going to play tomorrow, which is
and probably not in game 4 either.
Yeah, I mean, and in regards to Matt McGloin, I think Dane Evans is gonna maybe even beat him out for a spot, or they're just gonna they're gonna need 3 QBs if Foles isn't ready. So I think there's even a position battle between Dane Evans and Matt McGloin for that 3rd spot.
Do you want to switch to defense now? I guess
Sure.
I'll start off, and it's kind of along the lines of what I've already said with what I liked about the preseason so far. But to me, I really need to see if Michael Kendricks can have a 3rd solid game in a row. If he does, that gives me a lot of confidence in the linebacking core because I think Bradham is a good fill-in as well. He's not the best, but depth on this linebacking core is going to be huge. Now, Jordan Hicks has had an issue with health, but played a very good season last year. So if he can repeat that and Michael Kendricks steps up his game to his 1st or 2nd season, that's huge for the defense as well. And then, again, Vinny Curry, I need to see him get some pressure. if he's going to be the starter instead of Chris Long or Derek Barnett and hold off the rookie, he's got to get pressure, whether it's, blowing up someone in the backfield on a handoff or getting to the quarterback and hurrying a throw that gets tipped or some. I need to see something out of Vinny Curry.
100% agree. 100%. I still like in his whole career, he hasn't shown anything to me, and they give him that huge contract, and I'm like, why? He's already almost 30. I think he's 20, between 20 and 30. It's ridiculous. Also, I guess I'll add on. I think you mentioned the depth at linebacker is very crucial. I don't know who we have behind Bradham, Hickson, Kendricks. Who's going to come in behind them? Is it going to be Najee Good? Is it going to be Nate Jerry? Is it going to be
Joe Walker?
Don Cherry? Joe Walker, Don Cherry. Who knows? I'm also looking forward to seeing the cornerback depth behind Mills and Darby. I haven't seen Ron Brooks do much. I haven't seen Rasul Douglas do anything. He's been pretty non-existent and hasn't played a lot, to be honest. C.J. Smith was all the hype and when camp started, but he hasn't shown it on the field. So I'm hopefully. Oh, and Patrick Robinson, I even forgot about him. So yeah, I hope
we could all forget about Patrick Robinson.
Well, he's not Leotis McKelvin, so I think I want to see more from those backup corners, that they can show me something just in case Darby or Mills go down.
Yeah, and that was my final point as well. Which of the cornerbacks is going to win that third spot? Is it going to be Ron Brooks? Is it going to be Patrick Robinson, Rasul Douglas, C.J. Smith? All the names that you just brought up, And I think we're going to get a really good taste of what's to come this season with the Dolphins. They have 3 really good wide receivers in Kenny Stills, Jarvis Landry, and the third one's escaping me.
Devontae
Parker. I want to say, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, Devontae Parker. And, it's going to be something to highlight in this game, how their 3 wide receivers are going to match up against our cornerbacks, especially Darby on the outside and Jalen Mills. Darby's got the speed to, stay with Jarvis Landry, but there's 2 other guys who can really run amok. And on top of that, they picked up Julius Thomas in the offseason, so we'll see how the linebackers or even the slot corner matches up against their first team for a half to 3 quarters.
It's definitely a good chance for this defense to show what they can do against a pretty good wide receiver core, a good tight end,
and a veteran quarterback. Say what you want about Jay Cutler. He's a veteran quarterback, and he's not afraid to push it down the field either. So we're going to need that safety help as well.
Right. I mean, we faced the Bears when they had Marshall and Jeffrey, so I'm not really worried about Cutler, but he's definitely, for the young guys. I just want him. I want to see. Jay Cutler could dummy these young corners like crazy because they're young and inexperienced, and Cutler, like you said, is a big-time veteran.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully they stay poised at the corner spot and stick to their guys and don't get looked off or whatever. So it's definitely a really good test for this defense.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to wrap up episode 49. You all have a great week. Enjoy the game tomorrow. And again, you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, any social media platform. Just look for Sporting Edge. And again, if you want some highlights and some articles, head to mysportingedge.com. We will see you next week at 8 o'clock Wednesday night, and enjoy the game.